Some of you might remember the Commissar that we did a little while ago. That one turned out to be a warm-up, I guess, for this one. This was ordered by the same client who wanted a more commanding piece for his army. So this one has a little bit more of a decorative nature to it, just a little bit more. And it also has a couple of features that I had never done before. The first of which was sculpting under, or rather over, some arms like this. In other words, having a miniature with no arms out front. And so you had to really focus on keeping the natural shape of cloth over those limbs so that the idea isn't lost. So to do that, we took the arms of this miniature, chopped them up, repositioned them behind the back. Didn't bother with any hands because you weren't going to see them anyway. But there are some arms back there. And then we draped a piece of this Tamiya quick set, which I will just start calling yellow stuff from here on out, but it is Tamiya quick set. So we draped a sheet of that and built up the substructure, the general shape. It's kind of like sketching in the general shape of something before you draw it. And that gave us a good base to sculpt on top of, which we did with some folds, and we added some trim and other features. So that is what made up the general body of the coat. And I tried to build it up only 80% of the size that I was eventually going to want it in the final stage, so that way I could add some layers and build up that remaining 20% of volume with detail. So we added a sleeve. This is just a tube of yellow stuff that was flattened on top, and then a sleeve, cuff, and details were added. This was all done in layers. You have to really wait and add layers as the layer beneath it cures. So the helmet actually started off as a cap, kind of like the old miniature, and then the client pointed out to me that he actually wanted a helmet, which was my bad. But what that did allow is for a bit of experimentation. So I actually rebuilt up the rear of the helmet, and then, let me get it focused, and then added the right shape, and then added a mohawk, trimmed it down, sanded it, waited for it to cure and all that. Once the general shapes were in there, I added the details, this little trim of plate on top, and then added the laurels, which I think turned out pretty well. The collar goes high and then flattens along the back. That's a little bit of trim. These epaulets are built up in layers as well. Have little spikes coming out because, why not make it spiky? I'm probably going to add a little bit more of the dangly fringe before this ships out, just because I think that was part of the plan, and I forgot to do it before filming this. But I'm going to add those before this ships out. The medals were done in layers as well. Once this was all cured, these were done just in little tiny parts. You really have to make sure that you don't have any oil or finger or grease, skin oil on any of your tools or fingers, because those will disallow any of these little details from sticking. So that was difficult. This little rope, easy to make. There's a video on that on the channel. There's also a video about how to do cloaks, and robes, which are similar to this coat. The most difficult thing, however, was probably sculpting the fold here on the back. And the reason for that was because I wanted to have the saber, which was made from a different piece. I wanted to have the saber removable, which means that I had to sculpt over a piece that couldn't be fixed in place. So there was a lot of guessing and making substructures, floating cloth here, which I would then sculpt over the top once the sublayer was cured, and then slip the saber in once it was all cured to make sure that everything was spaced correctly. So now he can remove the saber for painting. Everything will be nice and completely painted. Yes, that was extra effort. It really was, but I think it turned out pretty well. That was probably the most difficult, is getting those wrinkles over something that isn't actually there. So there you go. I hope that was interesting for you guys. If you like this sort of thing and would like to learn how to build miniatures like this and learn how to sculpt, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/lastlightcreative, or check us out on Instagram if you just want to see some more projects and pictures. If you would like to commission something, get a hold of me at Instagram or at lastlightcreative@gmail.com. Those are the most common ways to get a hold of me. For commissions, I will email you the request forms to fill out, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much, guys.